We are here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Footy Abroad. It is Tuesday, the 18th of June, 2024. There's four of us here. It's good to have your company. Hello, everyone. Lads, how we doing?
What's going on? Cold?
Yeah, very good.
Cold. But,
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very good. Very good. I did a bit of a Dwayne Russell there. Great to have your company. I don't know where that came from.
It's midday madness.
Yeah. That's a new one. I might bring that into the rotation. Hey, Jake, Luke, we'll get to you in a minute, but we do have a special guest. We've actually got a pretty heavy hitter. There's big Melbourne clubs in the house tonight, so we've brought the Essendon representative. We've got Rob from the Sash. Hello, mate.
Gents, I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to open with a gripe because the little branding we've got for tonight's show doesn't feature an Essendon player, and you've got Tom Green on there. Now, I know Tom Green's an amazing talent, but as far as I'm aware, there isn't any GWS fan content that exists because they haven't got any fans. So we might need to just go restart the video, put an Essendon player in, and we can start again, I think.
That's
Which player, Rob?
Who's in form at the moment? I mean, let's go with Zachy Merritt. Like, it's hard not to go past Zach Merritt at the moment. I think he's flying. Him or maybe Sam Durham. I think it's
I was going to suggest Nick Hind, if possible.
Sweet Nicky Hind. Bum. We're all about Nick Hind at the moment, mate.
I remember putting the players together and thinking, okay, make sure you pick players who you know are going to be relevant for the entirety of the year. Tom Green's fallen off a bit, to be fair.
He's got good chat, though. I really like watching the stuff that the GWS club put out because he's a player who's clearly got, one, a lot of confidence, but two, can speak very well. I actually quite like listening to stuff from Tom Green. So, yeah, I do rate him.
No, fair play. Luke, mate, how you doing?
Good, mate. Good. After that steal, not too bad.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah, it's been a good weekend.
And Jake, up and about, back from Brizzy, got a bit of a tan.
Yeah, it was good. Got down on Friday. First time in Brizzy, actually. So to the Gabba, and the game didn't disappoint. It looked like it was going to disappoint, but it was a good little shootout. Didn't expect it. Boys gave it their all and almost snatched it in the end, and got on some roller coasters yesterday and a bit of thrill seeking. So yeah, good to have a nice weekend away, and now we get the bye weekend. So another chill weekend.
Tell you what, there was a power photo that you posted over the weekend, just in the kit in front of the window, ready to go.
I'm glad you don't have that up, ready to go. Usually you're pretty prepped with that sort of stuff, but
no. I just
you got to set the tone when you're away from home. You got to set the tone. You got to no fear. Otherwise, why are you going to away games if you're going to be quiet? Got to make some noise.
That's true. That's true.
Exactly.
It's very true. What we'll do? We'll go around and we'll just give a bit of what's happening at your club. If you didn't play, we'll talk about what's happened in the first half of the year. And Jake and Luke, you'll obviously talk about your games. Rob, what is the story about the Bombers? What's happened? Where are we at?
We've had the bye, which has been great. So nice to have a week off. Long story is that it's been a pretty good season so far. We're exceeding everyone's expectations, exceeding my expectations. I think I had us finishing 10 or 11.
Oh, wow.
And we're in the top 4 at the bye, which is huge for us. Now it's just about continuing that form and not doing what we did last year, which is completely collapsing. I do like the brand we're playing. I think it stacks up more than it has in previous seasons. But there's still those memories of last year and how quickly it fell apart, and it started post-bye. So even though we've got a lower opponent in West Coast this week, I know how poorly we started the first quarter post-bye last year, and it's something that I'm thinking about because just what West Coast have shown this year is that they can still beat decent teams on their day. It is in Melbourne, but hopefully we fly to the blocks and get back on the winners list after a couple of losses pre-bye.
Yeah, right. 10th or 11th. You that's where you thought you guys were at. I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's when it's been so long since you'd seen good success and the way things finished last year, like I thought things would be better, but I just was looking at the other teams and I was like, well, you know, to be fair, teams who I thought were going to be better haven't been. I thought Adelaide were going to be a good team. I think a lot of people did. I thought the Bulldogs would be better than they have been. They've been okay, but they've been inconsistent. And I sort of said, well, look, those teams will probably finish higher than Essendon. And then I was like, well, who's coming out of the 8? Someone had to. At the moment, it's looking like it's Melbourne. But I don't know. I guess I just didn't think we were going to be playing finals football, just the way the season sort of panned out. But clearly I was wrong. And we're playing finals-worthy footy at the moment, as long as we just keep doing that week in, week out. Like, I know a lot of people have said we've got a pretty tough run home, but we travel once more interstate. We got 4 games left at Marvel. We haven't lost at Marvel. Then a few, you know, tough games at the G. But, you know, every game in Melbourne I think is winnable. You know, can go either way. So, yeah, I'm look, pumped for a pretty big month because obviously we've got the Pies again. We've got Geelong, got the Ds at the G. You know, if you win 1 or 2 of those, I think we're absolutely right on to be a finals team. Yeah.
Yep. Up and about. Luke, I did say it pre-show, but I want to say it during the show. I love the blue in the background, mate. You've picked a good color.
Yeah, it looks good. It's my laptop camera doesn't pick it up much, but it looks good on the side of the face. You know, just for you, Terry. I bring it out, which is nice.
Everyone looks better in blue. I'm just saying.
Hey, I don't mind. I think I've got a bunch of blue t-shirts in my wardrobe, so I don't mind the old blue every now and then.
What happened on the weekend? What's the story with the Pies? And were you confident the whole way through?
Nah, I wasn't confident the whole way through. Like in my preview, I said that Collingwood has this ability to play or to sort of go into games with this arrogance that is just, you know, happened last year against Hawthorn when we lost right after the Carlton game. It happened a couple of years ago against West Coast. We thought we were going to win. We get done. And it happened against North Melbourne. And we thought we were going to win. We went in with that mentality. And you know, in football, if you're 5% off, you get run over the top. And to be 48 points down at halftime to the Kangaroos, you know, you would think that if you were going to lose or you're going to be down to the Kangaroos, it would only be a couple of goals. But to be 48 points down not only shows that we weren't up for the fight for that first half, but it shows that, you know, the Kangaroos played out of their skin. That was their best half in 11 years. Like, They beat us in contested possessions. They beat us in clearances. They were beating us in tackles, in ground ball gets, every major stat they were beating us in. And you guys know that when you get on a sort of a roll where the other team's just on top of you and you drop your heads, they just keep coming. And that's exactly what they were doing. And, you know, it's props to them for that, being 54 points up. But then, yeah, we just showed that when we're on, we can be on. It was a tale of 2 Collingwood sides against the Roos on Sunday. And it was incredible to see, like a 55-point turnaround. I don't care who it's against. Like, that's insane for one to come back from 55 points and for another team to drop a 54-point lead. That's a 9-goal lead. Like, when does that? It rarely ever happens. That was the third best comeback in AFL this century. Like, it rarely happens. It probably says something about both teams, mainly Collingwood, that we shouldn't have let North be up by 54 points anyway. But they were, and we came back and won. And it's a lot about belief, and it's a testament to what we've been able to do over the last 3 years with these close finishes and stuff. And post-bye we get 4 premiership players back, and we'll be flying into the second half of the year, and it's going to be an interesting finish, that's for sure.
Wow. Who were the other teams to do the comeback? I feel like Essendon was one of them against North. Yeah,
2001. That's the biggest record ever. I think it's 70 points. But I think that was in the second quarter when it hit that absolute peak. I remember it because I was like, I was pretty young then, and this was back when most games weren't live on TV, and my neighbor had the radio on, and like I was out in the garden with my dad, and he's like, "Oh, Bombers are down by 10 goals," and Dad's like, "Oh, we're not watching that," and then suddenly Dad comes and grabs me like an hour later. And he's like, "We're in front. We got to watch the last 5 minutes." And like, like we watched the replay of the final five. So yeah, that's definitely the biggest one. Yeah, someone chat saying 69 points, 2001. So there you go.
Yeah,
Jason Johnson, I think, had 30 plus and 3 or 4 goals from memory. So
yeah, we did 55 against the Dogs in 2015 or 16.
Was that when you kicked like 13 goals in a row or something?
I don't know what we did. I just remember that was when Jack Billings in like his 10th game kicked 4 or kicked 3 in the last quarter and went berserk, and we were all like, shit, this kid. Tom Hickey put us in front. Oh no, Josh Bruce put us in front. Everyone was leaving at halftime. The stadium was half empty. And then Tom Hickey lays this holding the ball early in the third, and then that kind of just created the whole wave of goals. Such a weird game.
Wow.
That was equal 5th, I think, at the time. Apparently. Yeah.
Trying to imagine your halftime post that day.
That was before Saint. I mean,
oh man,
that was before the channel. So, I mean, on the weekend it was looking like it could have happened, but yeah, those comebacks don't happen often.
Yeah,
very special.
Well, speaking of the weekend, what happened? How'd it go?
You know what? I actually didn't think about the game that much going into it. I just wanted to kind of enjoy being away from Melbourne and being with the away fans. And the expectation was pretty low. Brisbane looked like I think they're going to be pretty formidable in the second part of the year. I think they're building nicely, and Ashcroft's going to come in. They're going to be a hard team to beat. And at the Gabba, it's almost impossible. We had Tom Campbell come in for his first game in 662 days. Sharman was out. We didn't have Dougal Howard. We had Caminiti in the back line in the second half. We had Seb Ross tagging Charlie Cameron or something in the back line. It was a perfect storm. We debuted Ari Shawmaker, who looks like a player. There was so much pre-game that we're like, okay, this just isn't going to be one of those days. Like, this is just too many things have gone wrong. Too many players are missing. And then, I don't know, we decided to play attacking football. I felt like maybe that's the only way you can beat Brisbane. You got to kick goals. You got to run and gun. And we sat back a little bit although we started really well. It was 3-1. King kicks it out on the full, and then they kick 4 or 5 goals in like 4 minutes. 2 goals in the last 30 seconds to McCluggage, and that put it out to 5 goals, which I thought was probably worse than what it was. Just like the eye test, it just didn't look like they were that much better. And then we clicked into gear from that point on. We were only outscored by 10 points, I think, for the last 3 quarters, and kicked 6-1 early in the first. And we were absolutely up and about in the cheer squad, like going nuts, absolutely nuts. When Liam Henry kicked that goal on the run, and it was 7 points. Yeah, that was a huge moment. And then, of course, the umpires get involved, and dodgy free kick against Windy, 50 metres, and then the game's done. But some people say that that's better than, the week before, winning by 3 points and playing shit football. So we'll talk about that a bit later. But I think, for me, I want to see us be in the top 8 for points for in the second part of the year. That's my goal. I don't care win-loss. I want to see more goals. I want to see more attacking football. The defence, I still want it to stand up. I still think it'll be good. But you can't be 14th, 15th for points for in a season and expect to be a premiership threat or even a finals threat. You got to be top 8. So I want to see that be a focus.
Fair. I forgot. You said 50-meter penalty, and I forgot to ask Luke, was it a 50?
Not according to Laura Kane. So I'm just going to go off what the big dog says. She says it's not a 50, so let's play on.
Can we go around the room, please? What do we think?
It was 50 every day.
It's absolutely 50.
Absolutely. What I found funny was how emotional Hutto was, because usually a commentator will go, "Oh, that's 50." Hutto wanted it. You could tell Hutto.
I know. It was like Geelong was playing.
Look, I think if you're a North Melbourne fan, what you should be more worried about is how Luke McDonald, a 200-game player, got clean bowled and the ball went through his legs and spilled out the back. Like, he should have picked that up in the first place, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But
well, if they don't lose a 54-point lead, a 9-goal lead, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. If Fisher kicks the goal right at the end, no one's talking about that 50 meters. You know what I mean? So, and like we've talked about so many times, everyone's focused on that one thing, and they forget about what happened.
Why wouldn't Why can't the AFL just say they got it wrong though? Just say they got it wrong. Stop trying to say that the umpire should have paid something else. Just admit you're wrong. I think that's what everyone's a bit up in arms about. They're just trying to ignore the fact that it was such a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Just
so
say
wild. So wild.
Yeah.
They usually do though. Like if they like the Adelaide one, they admitted they were wrong. I think they reckon they're honestly, I think they reckon they're right.
My first instinct was you play by the whistle. The umpire didn't say play on, and they crept over the mark. It's pretty black and white there.
But there was no stand called either, is what they're saying.
That was the issue. There was a whistle, but there was no call.
Yeah, it's just this fucking and you know what? It was foreshadowed from the entire. I love a foreshadow. I used to do literature, and it's the best thing. Foreshadowing. I use it all the time when I can. At the start of the game, there was a free kick. We got a free kick. One umpire called play on. One umpire play on advantage, and we kicked the goal. The other umpire called pull it back for a free kick. So two umpires right there couldn't make up their mind, and it went to whoever was head, and it got called back for a free kick. And that happened twice in the game. It was another thing that happened. And so the whistle was just the four umpires. We've talked about it before. No one knows who's in charge. And, a whistle's blown and nothing happens. No stands called. If it was stand, 100%, 50 meters. But when there's no stand, when there's no thing called at all, when it's just a whistle,
I'm noticing...
gray area.
That just reminds me, thanks for that. But I'm worried that the game's going in a direction where players have to make it obvious to the umpire now to pay the free kick. Because I know in our game, I feel like there was a call where, it was like two umpires, one says play on, and then I think Winhager or someone, or I can't remember who the player was like pointing out like, hey, this is a 50 or this is a free kick or whatever, and then the other umpire paid it. And I was like, so the players have to make it obvious? And I'm thinking with that 50 in the Collingwood game, the North players actually stuffed up as well because he just went and played on. He should have just stood there and gone, no, like, hey, this is 50, and actually like made it that obvious to the umpire. The umpire would have had to have paid it at that point. But because he kept the game moving, he's just let the umpire get away there. 100%. So I think he stuffed up. But you don't want players to have to call for these things like you see in other sports.
I think the other thing as well is that even though it's a North Melbourne home game, I would assume that there was more Collingwood fans there. When you get a 80-20 crowd, whether it's an interstate crowd or when one of our teams has an interstate team come over, your crowd lets you know. And like people can deny it all they want, but home teams, when you've got an interstate club or a small club coming to your ground, the crowd's going to sway a few decisions. And if North Melbourne drew bigger crowds and that was 70% Kangas and 30% Pies, could have changed the decision, I think.
Noise of affirmation. That's Alan Richardson right there.
That was great. That was good. I'll remember that for the banter next time. Giga chat in the chat. Next time I say Carlton get looked after by the umps. Mate, everyone gets it. Everyone gets the good and the bad of it. Actually, I mean, I'm going off topic, but is there one umpiring decision that lives rent-free in your head, in your footballing career?
Great one.
That should have been my topic. Damn it.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Lives
change it. That's your topic.
Look, I'll give one, and Luke, you'll probably remember this. There was an Anzac Day a few years ago where there was a couple of holding the ball rules that I know the Essendon crowd felt were going their way. I can't remember who tackled who, but like all the players stopped. I'm trying to remember what year it was. Like
it was Callum Brown. I think it was 2019. 18 or 19.
Yeah. They all merged into one, but I can't remember how many drinks I had that day, but I recall being more up in arms than I've ever been before by that decision. I remember that really got me. And like the players seem to think so as well. When the players all stop, you go, all right, there's a decision here. And the ump's like, no, carry on, play on. That's one that rings for me because, the players were definitely on side, I think.
I've got a good one. Not one that I was pissed off about, but one that I love. And it was the, I think, 2010 qualifying final. And we were up by a few points, like a minute to go. There's a holding the ball, and then Cam Mooney pushes Raf Clark in the back, and then it rolls to Cam Ling, and he kicks the goal, puts them in front with like 40 seconds to go, and the crowd just goes nuts. All the Geelong fans think they're into a prelim, and then it comes back to us, and that's where Cam Mooney says, "You just lost us the game." That famous line to the umpire, like, "You just lost us the game." That was against us, and then we go through to a prelim and make a granny, and they go out. That was a huge. I remember that sickening feeling. because 09 happened and then 2010 it felt like they stole it and then they reversed it. I couldn't believe it. On James Gwilt, actually, it was the push in the back.
Wilty.
On Gwilt. And it was a clear push in the back, but his reaction now would have been a 50-meter penalty.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly add the 4 frees that Cody Waitman got in the 2021 elimination final for all 4 goals. That's deep,
That's right
nice
in
and
there.
deep in there.
You never forget. You never forget them.
No.
My one would be, we played the Eagles in 2011. Tight game at the end. Darren Glass was in front of Andrew Walker, but sort of holding him like a basketball box out. They didn't call the hold. Would have been a shot on goal. Carlton fans still cry about it to this day, including me. I'll never forget it. It's heartbroken.
My one would be 2019 prelim against the Giants. Deep in the Giants' forward 50. It's a ruck contest, and fucking Finlayson just absolutely shoves Grundy out of the way. No chance for Grundy to get the ball. Finlayson grabs the ball, kicks a goal, and we lose by 5 points.
I remember that.
It's just like it just doesn't make like at first it's a ruck contest, so none of that you can't do that in a ruck contest. And second, it was just so blatant. And then to lose by less than a goal, is devastating.
In a final. Oh, man.
See, 3 of those are finals, right? Oh, wait, were there 4 finals we just mentioned?
Yeah,
one of mine wasn't, but yeah, there was definitely.
The rule book goes out the window in the finals. We all know that.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. All right. Oh, quick summary about the Blues. 9-4 at the bye. Played the best teams in the comp so far. I think the form line is justified given the quality of opponents that we've played. Big break, and hopefully now we're about to go on a nice run and contend and be there at the end of the year. And I actually feel like we're a chance this year. I was saying it last week. I have belief. I do believe that we're one of the teams that can win it if things go our way. But that's going to be the same case for a couple of other teams as well. But I think just to be in the mix and to not be scrolling to get to the bottom of the ladder where we've been for a long time in my life at this point in the year, it is nice. It is noticeable. So yeah, I'm happy and I'm ready.
Exciting.
It's good. He's getting a bit confident.
I'm confident in our ability.
It's good. You have to. You have to be. You have to be.
Has he brought grand final
ladder, man?
Yep. Do you know I've never been to a granny? I'm waiting until Carlton are in one.
Same.
Oh, good.
I'm the same.
Yeah. I was the same until last year. Good.
That was your first?
Yeah, first. Yep.
Is it worth the wait to do it like that?
100%. 100%. Because you don't want to go to a mutual one because then the whole game you're thinking.
Unless they draw and lose. Sorry.
Unless they draw. I didn't go to the replay. I didn't go to the replay. I was at the draw in 09. 09 was still the worst day of my life, leaving the ground. 20-2, 5-point combined loss or whatever it was for the season, and then lose to the Cats by 12.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder.
Sorry, mate. Luke, what were you saying?
Yeah, 'cause my dad went to a mutual one with no pies, and he said the whole time you just wish it was your team. Like you can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's like watching the grand final on a TV when it's not your team. Like you can't get into it because you're just like, fuck, I wish that was us,
Yeah. I went to the parade last year with a Brisbane mate, and I don't know. It's just kind of like, cool. Nah, it doesn't. To be fair, I haven't been to a grand final parade ever, but that was just felt empty. Especially when your team was in finals and they get knocked out in the process. You're like, cool, whatever.
Interesting. Well, we'll see what happens, boys. It's a lot of footy left to be played. Lots and lots of footy.
Still a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Let's get cracking. Rob, you are the guest, so maybe we can kick things off with you. What has been on your mind this week? Or, this year?
Yeah, well, it's sort of news of the last couple of weeks, and I think it's interesting because it's something that's affected maybe a few of the clubs in this chat tonight, and that is the potential changes to the father-son rule and potential changes to the draft and how that might affect clubs. I guess I'm interested to gauge your opinion because, in recent years, obviously, the Pies are a team that have benefited. Carlton are a team who looking like they will benefit. Essendon has some history there, and if my history books are correct, the Saints have never had a father-son, which we can discuss as well. But yeah, I'm interested to get you guys' thoughts on what it's like because I think for me, like, I don't mind there being change in rules. I think it's, we should tweak things as we go along. If it seems like there's an issue somewhere, we do it. But I think it's unfair in the middle of a season to change the rules that teams might have set themselves up for a couple of seasons. Now, as much as I'd love to see Carlton miss out on a generational talent and them to go somewhere else, like, I think it's a bit stiff if we're changing the rules middle of the year. But yeah, I'm curious to know for you guys looking long term, do you think there needs to be a higher emphasis on father-sons? Do they need to cost more? Even just academies as well? Because I do feel like the AFL, this is the case with a lot of things. They're trying to be like too many sports at once because, you look at some sports and, the American sports, it's all about the draft. But then you look at some other sports like NRL in particular, or even some of the soccer codes around the world where it's all about the academy system and bringing up your own players. And obviously there's the buying and trading. But the AFL's trying to do a bit of everything. And I feel like that kind of doesn't work. I feel like you either go full academies and zones and that's how it works, or you go full draft and that's it. Because, what's coming up now over the next few years is they're projecting that some of the best, like we saw what Gold Coast did in the last draft, but these northern clubs now who, 10, 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, there wasn't much talent, but there's a lot of talent there now, and they've got them all to themselves. I'd like to see the rules change, but I think it needs to have a bit of time so that clubs can adjust. And assuming they're not aware of what's been spoken about now, I think it's pretty unfair for Carlton if they're only able to take one of two, Camporeales. So I guess, Terry, like, you're the club who's likely been most affected by this change. Like, sort of, what's your opinion on it?
My opinion on it is we are still going to get the boys, the twins, the Camporeale boys. It's not ideal. Firstly, I don't believe that the clubs don't know. I think that's a lie. I think that's a complete lie. I think a club like Carlton it would be in their best interest to try and push back and make a case to push it out for next year, of course, because why would we want to pay whatever they're going to bring in? Why would we want to pay more when we have been paying less all this time? So I understand it from that point of view. I don't think it's as wild as what the outrage has been. If we were in jeopardy of not getting the twins, I would probably be a lot more angry about it, but we're going to get them. So that's why I'm not up in arms about it. I think the media has added fuel to the fire and turned it into something that it's not. I remember this memo sort of came out in the media late last year about the potential. I definitely agree. If you're going to do it, just at the end of last year, just call it. Just call it and say, this is happening next year. You don't want to have a situation like this. What I'm curious is, what is the urgency to do it now, middle of the year? Like, why did we get to this point? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But for me, overall, I'm not panicking because I know we're going to get our boys. We're just going to pay a little bit more. And I guess you don't want to have a situation like Gold Coast last year's draft. 3 of those academy boys. They got a couple more coming. We're in a situation we're going to get two. Like, when was the last time twin father-sons came into a team? It doesn't happen often. Yeah. So
Essendon had a couple of years ago at the Davey boys, but they weren't super highly rated. So I think it was a pick 40 and might have been a 70 because one of them was injured.
They were low.
So that was the recent case for us. But very different to like a Nick Dacos, who everyone goes, this guy's the number one, but he's a father-son. And then we even look back at a couple of years before that, Jamara Uberhagen, clear number one. He's an academy prospect. Mac Andrew, Melbourne Demons academy prospect, has to go to the Gold Coast because of the way they changed it. So I don't know. I just, particularly with the academy stuff, I feel like it's all academy players are all yours. No one can touch them forever, or it's open slather and it's just a pure draft and that's it. I feel like the AFL is too much like we want a bit of that and a bit of that and a bit of that. And it kind of confuses it all.
this is another issue because Cody Walker, son of Andrew Walker, in a couple of years, he'll come into the system. I believe he's part of Richmond's zone, but he's a father-son for Carlton. Now, ultimately, he's going to be able to pick.
Yeah.
But I don't know the answer to this question, but does this mean we're going to get to a point where father-son's going to be a priority over, the NGA or the other way around? I'm not sure. I guess because we don't know, that's the frustrating part. We should have a lot more clarity by this point. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration's coming from.
Yeah, I guess that. Someone in chats has said, pick 45 and 54 for the Davey boys. So there you go. I was close with one, but off with the other. I know. I guess. Keen to know your opinion, Luke, because obviously the Pies recently have benefited really well from the father-son. It's obviously worked amazing for you guys. Like, are you happy with how it sits right now, or do you think there needs to be fairness in it?
I love the romanticism of a father-son pick. I think so with our picks, and it was a Sam Edmund that came out and said that one of the AFL or the club bosses said that we've got the 2 Dacos's more on Quaynor for like a bag of chips or something. And like when you sort of look at it, Josh Dacos wasn't highly touted at all. We got him for pick 57, and he wasn't bid on. No one wanted him.
All right.
We just took him. So that was not even like a father-son because he was father-son, but he just went at 57. Darcy Moore went at pick 9. We were 9, I think. Back then when Darcy Moore went, I think it was 2014. So we had picks 5 and 9. And that was when, and I don't really remember a lot of it, but that was when you could bid pre-draft on father-sons. You could nominate. So I think the Bulldogs nominated Darcy with pick 5. And then we had to take him with our next pick, which was pick 9. And then Doggies took that wasn't Bont that year. I can't remember who it was, but so that was pick 9. So that wasn't really the father-sons that we see now. Isaac Quaynor was an NGA, and the Dacos one, people often forget that with Nick Dacos, we traded a first-round draft pick, which ended up being pick 2 or 3 anyway for him. You know what I mean? So we did that, and then Kangaroos could have, if they wanted to, the Roos, I know they're not going to with Horn Francis, but if they wanted us to use our maximum number of points and bids and whatever, they could have bid on Nick Dacos at number 1, and they could have bid on him at pick 2, or someone could have bid on him at pick 3 and made us use a lot more than we did at pick 4 or whatever he
ultimately they didn't. I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, that's what that's what I mean. Like, we say, the Pies got Nick Dacos for nothing, but we gave up a top 2 pick or pick 2 or 3 because we traded that first round draft pick, and no one bid on him. Like, the best player in the draft, no one bid on him. I think the father-son needs to stay because it's amazing. I love it, but maybe what needs to go is like the discounts. Like, just because your dad plays for the club, don't get a 10% discount, or just because it's an academy, don't get that discount. Like, get rid of the discounts. Maybe that's what needs to happen. But yeah, I like the idea of the academies. I'm not across the draft as much as like Pommy and maybe some of you guys are, but like Hugo Hagen, even Sam Darcy as well from the Doggies. And the thing with academy picks, because it pushes everyone down so much so far as well, you could have pick 10, and by the time Gold Coast have 6 academy picks, you've got pick 20. You know what I mean? It's something definitely needs to change. Maybe you can't bid on academies after pick 15, or I don't know.
Yeah. Jake, what's your experience with this stuff?
Very little, because we haven't had that many father-sons. In next year's crop, I think we've got a Wakeland, an Everett, and a Pickett, which will be good. So I think Pickett and Everett, particularly Boston Everett, is supposed to be a very, very good player. I think we missed out on Cam McKenzie in the academy last year. I think went to Hawthorn. I'm not sure. We've only had 3, so I think we've had 3 in our history, father-sons, I believe. The most recent being Bailey Rice in 2015, and he played like 2 games or something. So It's not like we've exhausted that. we've got some down the pipeline that would be nice. There's 3 Rewalts, I believe, but it looks like they'll probably play NFL. To be honest, I don't think
How
they'll
old
play
are they?
AFL.
How old are they?
They're pretty young. They're probably another 10 years away, but one can hope.
Yeah. We lost Dustin Fletcher's son to the college football because
I
think they were like, well, Fletch could punt it 80 meters, and look, let's be honest, a few mil a year to punt a couple of balls every week seems like a pretty good gig. So that's why he's over playing college football.
I know there's Hunter Hayes. Lenny Hayes' son is still very young, but in 10 years' time would be nice. Robert Harvey's had a lot of the Saints boys over the years have had just a lot of daughters. So obviously they'll go through the AFLW system. I know Alice Burke's gone through there and she plays AFLW. Nathan Burke's daughter. I'm not across this fully, to be honest, but I know Andrew Bassett's been very vocal about this, hasn't he? Didn't Caroline Wilson kind of shred him last night on Footy Classified, if I'm not mistaken?
One of the clubs that have really pushed for this.
And by clubs, it's really just Andrew Bassett just coming out and saying it's been bullshit.
Well, there's also another spanner in the works. Now, Steve Silvani, we love Sauce.
Yeah.
But he's not happy with Carlton. And I have a feeling he might have been one of the few that were pushing. Yeah, I reckon.
Do you reckon?
I reckon.
He's just pulling a few. He's the puppeteer, is he? Just kind of working his magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, the change needs to happen and is going to happen. It's just around this timing. I mean, I've seen a lot of people fearful that they're getting rid of father-son. That's not happening.
Yeah.
It's still going to be a feature of the game. It's just a matter of what you pay for your father-son pick.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, they're going to still get to the club, most likely. So,
do you guys still think it needs to be 100 games played? Because I know there was a few players for Essendon in the mid 2000s who we pushed over the line to get to game 100, and then they never played again. I think it should be more, just in the hope that they might have delivered a child for us.
I think it should be more. I think 100's too few, to be honest. I think it's got to be up. I think it's got to be 200. 150 to 200. I reckon 150. I'll go 150.
150.
I think 100.
I
think 100's that's 5 years of football, and your club, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like enough. I thought it was actually higher. I forgot that it was 100, but I think 150 probably makes sense. That's an established player.
Imagine the year they bring that in. The outcry.
Do you reckon people would whinge if it's 150?
I think people will whinge no matter what happens.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, what's the average? I don't know if we can find this quick enough, but the average games played for an AFL player in history, what is it? 80 to 100? So most players are going to play 100 games or not? What is it?
According to an article on 30th of May, on whatever the fucking website this is, it's 30 games. So it's not much.
Okay, so 100 is you're doing all right.
Because there's a lot of guys who play one game.
Yeah, the one game club. Yeah,
there's a few of those. Shout out to Tommy Jock, one game club on your belly.
Who played? Tom Lee played a few more. Yeah, there's. I don't know. I feel like 100's still not enough, but maybe it is based on those stats.
Yeah, interesting. No, it's been a very. I mean, I think being in the Carlton circles, it's been wildly spoken about, wildly reacted. It's been fascinating to watch. All for something, probably because I think it's the bye rounds. I think the bye when you don't have a game, you need to release that energy somewhere.
100%. Yeah,
I think AFL House got that this week.
I think what they should do, Terry, in fairness, is that one of Scott Camperello's sons should go to Carlton. The second should go to the other club he played for, which is Essendon. I think that's totally fair because he played 19 really good games for the Bombers, if you remember. So you take one and we'll take the other and we'll call it evens, I reckon.
Let's have this chat in September. Because that's the other thing. They're highly touted, but they don't always work out. Like, the name is appealing. The Camperello boys, you think of Scott running down the wing, getting 45 touches. Like, they're good players, Ben and Lucas, but you don't know.
Yeah. There's been, they might be the next Don Bradson, son of the great man, and that's the rest of them. So who knows?
Yeah. All right. Luke, what have you got, mate?
Yeah. Sweet. I'll go first. Next. Not first. I'll go next. Cool. I wanted to chat about, because I've been seeing it a lot now lately, is the AFLW season is well underway with like preseason and stuff. So, the Collingwood girls, I'm sure for everyone's sort of back and stuff like that. And I love the AFLW. I love the sort of community that it sort of brings with it feels like, grassroots sort of games at Vic Park and Icon Park. And it's nice to go to these, watch these games at those clubs and stuff like that. I really wanted to talk about, I don't think the AFL or the league has just done the competition justice. And I've written a couple of things down. So it started in 2017. One, we had to wait till 2022 for all the clubs to come into play. But my main gripe is they don't know when to start the competition. So from 2017 to 2000 and halfway through 2022, they started it from around February or January, February. So February to March for a couple of seasons, then January to April. And then in 2022, we had the 2 seasons, which is, I'm not even going to get into that. It's stupid. But first season started January, April. And then the second season started August to November. And then 2023 was September to December. And 2024 is going to be August to November. So now it looks like they're opting for end of the year sort of thing. Last year, I remember because one of the games was we played Essendon at the AIA Centre grand final day. Like when we were all getting ready to go to the grand final and just no one really rocked up to it. And I think they just don't know what to do with it. I personally like the start of the year, February to March, where it is a little bit hotter. So I understand why they've sort of moved away from it. But if you look at these crowd numbers, not forgetting about the COVID affected years, started off strong, around 7,000 averages for 29 matches. And then last year, all the teams, 99 matches, the average crowd was 2870. I think the league and I think Livingston for a while just hasn't this. They don't know what to do with the competition, and they're not treating it with the respect. Like, look at what the EPL does with their the women's Premier League. There, it just sells out. They're selling out Wembley. They're selling out the Etihad. And I know we're not going to probably get to there for another 10, 15 years because that's been growing so quickly. But it's the rise of women's sports with the Matildas doing what they're doing. They're going to the Olympics and stuff like that. I just think that there's a sweet spot that they're missing. And I think personally that starting the AFLW during finals is just so stupid. It's probably one of the dumbest moves that the AFL do. Because I love the girls, but if I'm going to training sessions for the boys for the men's season starting, and there's a game on Saturday or whatnot, it kind of gets pushed to the side that, oh, by the way, we've got an AFLW game the day before we have a prelim or the day of the prelim. So, am I really going to sort of you can't for other teams that aren't in the top 8 and playing finals, fine, right? But for the teams that are, it gets pretty difficult. So I guess my main question is, do you think what's the optimal time to start the season? And yeah, like you just put up, curtain raisers could be the thing,
I had the most fun going to the games. I feel like most of the fans did. It was that January, February time. The sun was out. We had late afternoon games, so it was still warm, but it wasn't like scorching where you feel like you're gonna get heat stroke. They had the food trucks. RSCA Park's a great spot, not far from the beach anyway, and they would sell out comfortably. So I don't know. I know our facilities probably allow for a bit more around the ground. I know not every club has that, but from my perspective as a fan, I was most inclined going at that particular time when it's mixing with. I feel like if you're not doing curtain raises, you can't do it during the AFL season at any point. Really, 100%. It's either with it's either at the same ground 2 hours before if it's a 7 o'clock game for the Pies men's, then it's a bloody 2:30 game for the women's or 3 o'clock. I don't know. Then it ends. People can go get dinner, go back and go to the men's game or something. I don't know, or have like a ticket where it's both games in one. But you can't expect people to do what you were suggesting, which is like go to one on the same day, go to the other. People are always going to prioritize the big event, the main event.
100%.
And that's just
100%.
me. That's not me saying that, discrediting them. That's just me spitting facts, and that's the way it is. Maybe not in 10 years' time, hopefully. But I think have we done many curtain raises? Have they even tried that? Like active? I think have they done that maybe a couple times?
Maybe a handful at Marvel, but I don't
Melbourne
think.
might have done one, maybe, or maybe I'm imagining that. But yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like they're trying. Yeah, prelim day. They're trying all these different other slots, and I mean, it is a trial and error. They're only into season 7 now, or something like that. So it's still, in its infancy, and so you're going to make mistakes. But I feel like we're not giving them probably the attention they deserve and the time slots probably. But for me, January, February, and then it kind of eases into the AFL season works a bit better for me as a fan.
I think we're still in. I mean, they've only just gotten to a point where every club's got an AFLW team now, right?
Yep.
I think there was a race to get there, and we're here, and now finally the league can settle. And I think it's still a case of trial and error for the right time to start the year. I still think it's so early in the piece. Like, it's an entire league. I don't think they know when the right time is. I personally loved it as well in the summer, like sort of in the lead up to, round 1 of the AFL season. And then, your finals overlaps. You get to watch a bit of footy before. You have practice matches as well for the men. But, I'm a spectator and I love the summer. But if you're a player playing in the heat, like, I guess that takes priority. Exactly. I think they just don't know the answer. Finals, respectfully, it's just tough. The deeper you get into an AFL season, the more priority it's going to take over an AFLW match. I would like to see it earlier in the year, in the lead up to the AFL season. But
So Essendon's AFLW team came in as one of the later ones. So we've only played as the post-season time of year. I think there's 2 issues with this. One is that the fixture is dedicated by the broadcaster. Like we say, it's the league who are trying to figure out, but it's the broadcaster who figures it out. Fox broadcast it, and 7, I think, broadcasters as well, the AFLW. They want clear air because they know if there's a 110 game, and even if it's 17th versus 18th on the men's on 504, if there's a women's game on 505, the men's is just going to take more of the numbers. So that's why they do it outside of it. What I would like to see them do is make the season longer, because a 10-week home and away season, that is not a league. That is not a league. That is a tournament. I want it to be 18. They should all play each other once, and that should be it. Because if you do that, you can start it in the middle of the season, and suburban grounds are available. The VFL size, there's plenty of weekends when Vic Park is empty, Moorabbin is empty, Icon's empty. Like, they can still use those grounds. In summer, there's cricket playing there. That's one of the big issues that they've got. So I would rather see them either you start in Jan or Feb, but you run until June, July, or you start in June, July, and you run until well past the men's is finished. Because, like, they talk of all this stuff about how they want it to be an equal game of the women's and men's, but a 10-week season doesn't give them that justice. Like, they play a lot of these girls. They'll play VFLW, then they'll play AFLW straight afterwards. Like, give them the whole season and actually let it build from there. And I think you'd see better numbers. But I do like the idea of the curtain raiser. And if you're not doing a curtain raiser, maybe look to do a double head with the VFL, because we're very close to a national reserves competition again. It's just a few of the, I think it's Port and maybe I think it's Free on West Coast who are holding out on that.
Yeah.
If that happens, why wouldn't you do a double header AFLW VFL game? If that's going to be on the suburban ground, because right. If it's let's say Collingwood have West Coast at the G, the AFLW game's not going to draw a big crowd. But if Collingwood is playing West Coast at Vic Park and you got the 10,000 or a couple of thousand there, then you've got a nice double header of those two sides as well. So
that's true.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue, is that the broadcaster won't let them play at the same time, because they don't want to give it, they won't have clean air, basically.
Yeah. And when you mentioned, Rob, the season being, 10 weeks. And I remember, it wasn't until a couple of years ago where we hadn't versed West Coast or Gold Coast or something, and we were both in the competition for like 5 years, and we never played each other until like a couple of years ago. So like, and now they're saying, yeah, we'll give you more games if your attendances go up. But when you're chopping and changing it and not taking it seriously, the attendances and the TV ratings, like you just said, aren't going to go up. So they're not getting these extra, they're not getting these extra games. And I think, but like you said, Terry, now that they've got all 18 teams, they really have to bite the bullet and say, no, this is what's going to happen now. Because, yeah, you're right. 10 games or whatever it is, it's ridiculous. Like, and then, you know what I mean? And also, like, I like the idea of starting it in the middle, and maybe that bye week where there's nothing and everyone hates for the men's competition is the AFLW grand final. Don't make that the start of the AFLW. Make it the grand final. Make it a grand final week leading up to the AFLM finals. Something like that makes a little bit more sense at least.
Yeah, and also just like it's footy. It's a winter sport. Like we're used to have, like, right. If it runs a bit later, it starts a bit earlier. I think we can kind of cop that. But I don't know. For me, like if it's January or if it's December, footy is not on my mind. Like if I'm thinking about sport, I'm thinking about cricket, or I'm thinking about something overseas. Like I'm not thinking about footy that time of year. That's usually when I have I check out and I don't want to think about it too much, And I think there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, all right, there's a game on, but do I really feel like watching footy at this time of the year? Maybe not.
Yep.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what they do in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to the league settling now, because it compromised the draft. It compromised a lot of things. I understand that, like, it just makes sense. Get everyone to 18, get everyone to the starting line, and then away we go. So I think the next 5 to 10 seasons are going to be a lot better for the league.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
All right. Hey, I'll go next. Jake, you can close us off.
Yep. Sounds good.
So I shared this recently. I'm going to put a graphic up. So basically, AFL players were. Oh, this isn't very good, is it? Sorry. AFL players were asked, what are the most significant societal issues facing AFL footballers in 2023? And we're able to select up to 3 from the following list: mental health, social media, gambling, illicit drugs, alcohol, racism, LGBTQ stigma, gender equity, media scrutiny, or other. Just to help everyone out. So in the red, those are the results from the AFL players. In the orange, those are the results from the AFLW players. So I guess I want to highlight to you guys some of the issues that are here and what you think are the most relevant or the most dangerous. And then I also want to talk about some of the discrepancies we see here. The first one I see, which is fascinating to me, is the gender equity. So only 4% of the AFL, or the men in the AFL, had that as one of their top 3 significant concerns, whereas 71% of the AFLW players had it in there. So maybe I'll start there. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean that the AFLW players are the only ones feeling it? Does that mean that the AFL players disagree, or they're just not experiencing it, therefore it's not on the top of their list?
So were they only allowed to pick 3? Was that how it
They
worked?
were only allowed to pick 3. So their top 3 most significant issues.
Yeah, I can understand why there'd be plenty of male players who, if they're only allowed to pick 3, would have picked other things. Would they still think it's an issue? Yeah. I'm sure that they would. Look, it's also great that we've got 4 men here discussing gender equity tonight. So shout out to any of the ladies for watching. I would like to think that a lot of people do think it's an issue, but there are other things that might seem more real for them, like you said, whether it's mental health, social media, and media scrutiny, because they're the things that a lot of those guys would live day in, day out. I think more so. And like, it obviously makes a lot of sense that the women's side of the game, that's a big issue, because there are so many issues, like the things we've discussed about how their fixture doesn't work, they don't get given good time slots, their payments obviously not very good. Look, it's still early doors, I understand all that, but I think that is a bit self-explanatory. So
the media scrutiny, I don't know, for some reason that surprised me. I thought the men's would be much higher than that, considering how much gets thrown at them and the microscope's on all of them all of the time. I was kind of surprised that wasn't higher.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we look at the top 3 issues here, so for the men, mental health at the top, social media second, and a sort of close third is
it gambling?
Media scrutiny and gambling, very close. Yeah. Interesting to see that the AFLW don't see gambling. I mean, again, you got to pick 3, so that probably hurts the argument. But the men are feeling it or seeing it more than what the AFLW are.
Yeah, I would assume that it's probably for the women's game. Like, I've never seen a person share a screenshot of a player getting abused because they didn't kick a goal to ruin their multi.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah,
all the people I know who gamble, and I know plenty who do, I don't think I've ever had a mate go, "Oh man, I've got a multi for the AFLW." I think just because there is so much gambling money pumped into the men's game, that's probably why it is more of an issue. And yeah, for the women's, and like, look, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that that's not a big issue for them, because I'm sure you guys have chatted about it a lot, but gambling is a big problem in our game.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
and you don't really see it like during women's games. It's not really like you go to the footy, like when I was at the North game, and all the LED screens have just got gambling. At the AFLW, because they're like the suburban grounds and stuff, you don't really see a lot of the sponsorship. There's no sports bet. There's no Instagram ads that pop up during the AFLW season that says put an in-game multi on like you said, Rob, it's kind of refreshing to go there and just for the love of the game. It's like I said, like a grassroots community sort of feel when you go to watch a game. Whereas, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the Jack Crisp thing, where he had 100 DMs because he got 19 possessions instead of 20. I don't think you're sort of having a go at Taylor Harris for kicking 2 goals instead of 5 that you put a bet on, because it's not prominent in there, which is it's a bit of a breath of fresh air.
What would you guys say if you had to pick a couple? They can be on that list, they can be on somewhere else. What would you say are some of the more serious issues that the league is facing from your perspective? Because these are players, so it's going to be a bit different.
Social media would be right up there. Just because that's everything, isn't it? That is mental health. That's racism. That's where all that comes from. It's the DMs. It's the abuse that they receive after a game about how they played, how they look, all that sort of stuff. Social media is the avenue between the fan and the player, the quickest way to get to them. So that to me would be like, if I was an AFL player and I had a shit game, that's the first thing that I'll be worried about, is when I look at my phone and I log into my account, what's going to be there? That would be number one for me, easily.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it feels everything. It feels all of it.
Yeah. I think gambling definitely is a big one for the AFL men's. And I guess, besides social media, it'd be mental health. Media scrutiny is always going to happen. But the fans are more harsher than anything Kane Corns can say, that's for sure. Yeah,
and Kane Corns isn't DMing the players and swearing at them and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and like you said, that's just what sort of piles into all the mental health stuff, because an experienced player would know to stay away from certain things when times are bad, but obviously it's the younger players who might not be used to it, who where they consume social media or whether they go out a little bit more after a few bad weeks of footy. I think that's sort of what sort of weighs into it, and like a lot of them all sort of lead into sort of one thing. So.
Social media.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, of course.
Spot on, Damien.
Yeah.
Big effect on children too. Yeah. I think. Well, drug use would be under mental health, in my view. Mental health covers a lot, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, that's gambling, drugs.
I think I don't know how big this is, but I think the lack of preparation and education, I mean, it's improved tenfold from what it used to be, but getting players prepared for the real world, post-footy, I don't know
I
what
think
the
it's
statistics are of players who, come out of the league and then, go on to, live normal lives and whatnot. But I would suggest that players, because it's a bubble and it's such a small sport. Like for us, it's everything. But the reality is, in the context of the world, very few people know that this game even exists.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm. You say like post football. I'm very interested in the preparation they put in when they're about to draft someone, or if you're pick 1 or 2. Do they sit them down and say you are going to get this is going to happen to you, throughout your career, throughout the next 6 months, like Harley Reid. Was he aware that, Kane Cornes was going to question his work ethic 6 games in and if he's fit enough for the game or not? Like, do they know this stuff's going to happen, or is it implied because you're pick 1, because you're supposed to be this hero, Like, is there a team around them that educates them on this as much as maybe post football? That's what I'm curious about.
Was Kane Cornes an option on this survey as one of the biggest issues?
Yeah. Yeah, Kane Cornes, media scrutiny / mental health / asshole. No.
Nathan Brown's gambling ads, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't know this stuff. Like, if you're getting drafted, you know that they come and meet the family. You hear about that all the time. They have dinner with the family. They suss where they live and make them comfortable. But how much extra goes into that about what's going to be written about you? Your social media is going to blow up in the next 24 hours. If you get these sort of DMs, don't respond, because then it reflects badly on the club. Like, would the PR person be, across them 24/7 with this sort of stuff in their first couple of months at the club? I don't know.
I think depending on where you're from, probably weighs into it. Like if you're a Melbourne kid, a Perth kid, or an Adelaide kid from the city, I feel like you'd be right in the thick of it and probably know what to expect. But it's often those kids who come from regional, remote parts of Australia, particularly like the top end, Tiwi Islands, stuff like that. It is another world for you. And like I've been doing a bit of work recently with some former like Indigenous footballers, and that's the common thing they will say to me, like, man, I'm so glad social media didn't exist when I played, because it was already such a shock to move from where they were from to come to Melbourne or to come to Adelaide or wherever they were from, go to a big city as a teenager, to add that stuff on top of it. Like, there's a reason there are a lot of players who you just never see them do any media, because it's just so foreign to them. And like, you're obviously really afraid to put yourself out there at the fear of being cut back down again, because not everyone's understanding. And there's a lot of people in the media industry who just want to scoop, and they don't really care who they hurt by doing it.
Yeah.
It is such a different world now, and it's changing rapidly. I mean, we all are going to remember what happened before social media and before the smartphone. Generations from now on I think they'll be better prepared. I mean, how could you be prepared for a Kane Cornes-like onslaught, even if you had some sort of program in place that sort of said, watch out for this? Until you're getting thousands of DMs and reading thousands of comments, it's going to be hard to prepare them for that. I think this generation will help prepare the next generation. But the amount of commentary that is now made available, because we all have a platform to write, to speak, is I think it's something we still don't understand.
Yeah. I think clubs are getting better as well. Like, I don't know about your teams, but I know Collingwood, they've got a sports psychologist, Jackie Lauder, who sits during games. So if something happens during a game and the boys are coming off or they get subbed out, she's there helping them straight away. I know it's a little bit different to what we're sort of talking about with sort of first years and stuff, but she's helping them straight away, getting them into the right mindset. If they've given up a goal, and they come off, she's helping them, so I think clubs are starting to get better at that as well. But yeah, we will see in 5-10 years where it's just probably the peak of it. Because man, like, kids don't know what a videotape is these days. So in 5 years' time, they're not going to know what pre-Instagram or pre-TikTok is. It's absolutely scary what the AFL landscape will look like in just even 5 years' time. Anything can happen in 5 years' time.
Yeah. All the clubs now also have an Indigenous liaison officer.
Yep.
So for all the players at the club, you've got someone who you can go to who is an authority at the club, but it isn't your captain or your coach, and you can go with them to an issue that might be an off-field issue and go, hey, I'm struggling with X, Y, Z, and that you can deal with that in that manner. Obviously, like a sports psychologist would, but for a lot of those guys, they're the ones who have the big culture shock when coming to the big club. So yeah, it's good that stuff's being put in place, but we know that there's been a lot of players over the journey who have fallen through the cracks, and I think there's less of those happening. I'd like to think so, at least. But we all know stories of former players who've ended up in trouble, ended up in prison and other issues as well. But yeah, unfortunately, that's just when there's 800 players in the comp or something. Like, there's always going to be a couple who fall away.
Definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, Luke. Jake.
Yeah.
Rent free, mate. Rent free.
Yeah, I know. It's the
little swoops in there. I've got, this is kind of off the back of the game and sort of the commentary from Friday night. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on, I feel like in the early 2000s, a lot of teams I think of West Coast and Sydney in particular when they played in grand finals, particularly Sydney and Paul Roos, very defensively minded. You know the way that they were going to play. Even Carlton with, I guess, that was very fast football. It was Pagan's Paddock back in the day. What was it? Clarko's Cluster. There are all these sort of different styles. I feel like now football, and this is, from my perspective, being a Saints fan and the way we've been playing this year, there's not really that many styles anymore. And I'm wondering if it's because of this reason, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong or what your view is, but I feel like a lot of clubs, based on fans, are sort of prioritizing playing fast attacking football over maybe playing a particular way that actually might maximize results more. So the classic argument is play sexy and lose, or play defensive and ugly and win. If you had the option, which way are you leaning? Is wins the number one thing on your mind and you don't care the way your team plays? Or, from my case, we played sexy football in the last quarter for most of the Brisbane game, nearly won, kicked over 100 points, conceded 126. Everyone leaves feeling pretty good. And some people actually left that game feeling better than having won the week before by 3 points against Gold Coast in a dour game. So I thought, perfect topic, play sexy, kick a lot of goals. It brings you bring more fans to the stadium, and that's obviously, what I feel like clubs want to do is play an attractive brand. When I think across the board, every club really, when it comes down to it, is going to play the same way. They want to just play fast. They want to get their hands on, get it inside 50. Every coach says the same thing. Really, it's get it in deep. It's hold it up. There's no unique styles to football anymore. It's just all out attack and pretty decent defense. I don't see any team being too different. I just think some teams have different strengths, but at the end of the day, the collective is very similar. What are you guys' thoughts on that? On the balance between, is it more important to play a style that you enjoy watching, or just win at any cost, whether it is the most boring football you've ever seen?
I think it's really horses for courses, right? Like, going off St Kilda's last 2 weeks, Gold Coast, you needed to slow them down because of what they did to Geelong sort of the week before. And that was what was going to work for them, and playing at Marvel as well, right? But when you go up to play Brisbane, and obviously you'll know this better than I would, you can't do that to Brisbane. You have to try to outscore them at the Gabba. I really think it is horses for courses. Like, Craig McRae said the other week, you don't get extra points for playing with style. You don't get style points. As long as you win, doesn't matter how you win. And I think I want to see my team kick over 120 points every single week. It's just not going to happen. Like, we weren't supposed to be down by 54 points to North Melbourne. So, and then our whole game plan changed after half time. So I think, especially during the home and away season, you just got to bank those 4 points. And sometimes it's not pretty, like the Gold Coast Sydney game, and sometimes but sometimes when it comes off, it really comes off. But yeah, I personally, as a Collingwood supporter, I just want to see us. I just want to see us win. I don't care if we're kicking 40 points or 100 points, as long as we get the 4 points.
Thoughts,
Rob?
Yeah, I'll go. I think expectations come into it a lot. I think if you're at side at the top of the ladder, you're looking to contend, you're looking to get deep into finals and only win something, I think it's result over everything. Like, obviously, Collingwood, reigning premiers, want to go back to back. I can see why Luke wants to. That's all you care about. If you're a team down the bottom of the ladder and you've been struggling, you're still trying to find out what you're trying to do, I can totally understand that playing an exciting game of football is good because you go, gee, what could this look like in the future and where could this go? So I think expectations one thing, but then sometimes it can just be the way the match is sort of set up because, yeah, you might have to slow a team down. The other thing that happens as well, and this is something that will happen at the back end of the year, teams who are down the bottom of the ladder, they're going to have coaches who, want to be coaching next year. They will slow games down so they only lose by 30 points and not lose by 60. That's what happens in the back half of the season. So you might win by 30. You might go, gee, we really should have smashed North or should have smashed whoever. But they will just kill the game to not have that sort of result. So, but look, I do think it is an expectation thing because I know, like, all the past 6 years, all the years that Essendon made finals, we played a fast, attacking, exciting game of football. What happens? We get to finals, doesn't stack up, you get rolled, and that's it. Whereas now, it's great we're winning games, and I'm loving what we're doing. Is it exciting as, McKenna and Sard running 100 miles an hour from one end to the other? Probably not, because that stuff was wild to watch, but we're playing consistent, we're getting results, and, if we make finals and we've won every game by an average of 3 points and our percentage is still at 100, I don't care, I'm just happy to be there at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Depends on where you're at. I know that when we were at the start of our rebuild, I knew that the bodies that we were playing were not up to it for 4 quarters. They were just so inexperienced. I would have taken any win. I mean, 2018, we won 2 games. Any win, whatever it looked like, I didn't care at the time. Having said that, I mean, Carlton are scoring at a really nice clip right now. I think we're the second, or I think top 2 or 3 for most points scored. If we turn into a defensive juggernaut and it's ugly and it's scrappy, I don't mind a defensive scrap. I don't mind a low-scoring game. Obviously, it's entertaining when there's more goals. The crowd gets involved a little bit more, you could argue. I think it goes in cycles, though, ultimately.
Yeah.
And naturally, when finals comes around, I don't know if I can blanket it and say it's one style of game, but it's a lot more defensive the deeper you get into a season.
Definitely.
I just feel like there's always there's an added focus on clubs that aren't playing that really exciting brand of football, even if maybe you're still winning. I feel like the AFL just sees clubs as obviously, part of the brand, and it's like they're annoyed when there's maybe a St Kilda that's playing this ugly style of football, getting the win, but not really drawing the fans to the ground. I guess obviously, it's all about the money in the end of the day. But is attack favoured more than defence? Because we conceded 48 against the Suns. We concede 126 the next week, but we kick more. And that's lauded, but we've conceded 80 points more. So it's kind of like, is that really that's the fact right there, that everyone favors attack over defense. Like, at the end of the day, if you had to pick one or the other, you pick an attack, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like, we've conceded heaps more. Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you another element when your crowd is involved into a game. For us, I'm sure for Collingwood and for Essendon is as well. Jake, when the Saints are up and about and attacking and scoring at will, do you notice a difference in the crowd?
Yeah. It hasn't happened. I can't think of a game really at Marvel this year where we've gotten on a roll. Like Geelong last year, late in the season, the crowd was going bananas. And I mean, to be fair, the away fans in Brisbane were very loud. That was probably the most I felt the momentum was our way, and it was almost impossible for Brisbane to stop it. It felt just like every contest was going our way. I haven't felt that way all season. Even Collingwood, I feel like we didn't have that much momentum in the game. It was just kind of, we'd kick, Collingwood would kick 1 goal, we'd kick 3. They'd kick 2, we'd kick 4. It was kind of just like bits and bobs. Whereas this was
the crowd was pretty loud there, though. That round 3 game, the crowd was, the Saints were fucking
that was
loud.
70,000. That was a good crowd.
Yeah.
But this was, different away from home, but it felt like the momentum, like it was more the silence of the away fans that said it, as opposed to us being loud. It was the fact that the rest of the stadium was kind of worried that the game wasn't going the way that they really thought it was going to go, which was almost more satisfying. But yeah, interesting. I mean, I'll take a win anyway, to be honest. I'm sure most people would in the comments. So they would just take a win, surely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
I mean, it can depend. Also, can depend on your opposition, because I think there's sometimes an expectation that if you're playing a bad team, you should be pumping them. Like, we beat North and Richmond, and both of them were tight games. Those teams had their opportunities and could have won the game, but at the end of the day, Essendon ground out the win. We took the 4 points. People were filthy. People were like, "Oh my god, we're the worst side in the comp. How can we only beat North Melbourne by this much? How do we only beat Richmond by this much?" Whereas like at the end of the season, no one's going to talk about that game.
Nah.
You got the win. Let's move on.
100%.
It's because they'll be like people think top line, and it's like, okay, so next week we play Collingwood, and Collingwood played North and beat them by 85, and we beat them by 5. So Collingwood's 80 points better than us. That's how they see it, though. They just look at the numbers and go, that's the way it is, which obviously it's not the case. I mean, Essendon are eerily similar to us last year, I would have to say. You're not absolutely dominating opposition, but you're grinding out wins. You played some of the bottom teams, struggled against them. We nearly lost to North twice. We lost to Hawthorn last year, nearly lost to West Coast. And you're in the top 4, and we were in the top 8 all season. So, I think that bodes well for finals. I think that says more than winning by 20 goals every week, I reckon.
Yeah. Just got to get
You guys, Saints, you guys a few weeks ago were in a bit of a spot where you just needed wins. So like when you won your 2 in a row, you were in a spot where, I don't know, maybe that was something that was spoken about within St Kilda community. But I remember doing the show and just sort of thinking, all right, well, you don't want to let the season get away from you too early. Maybe you just, bunker down, play a defensive style, and just get the 4 points.
I think it's going to be the opposite now. I think we got the 2 wins in a row. We played well against Brisbane for 3 quarters. Now we've got the bye, and then we've got, I think, one more away trip to Adelaide against the Crows in a fortnight, and then everything else is Melbourne. I think we play Blues, and we play the Bombers again, I think.
Last game of the year, mate. You
Last
and
game
me.
of the year. Yep.
Yeah.
Live stream from the stadium.
I just just continue that attractive brand of football. It just looked too natural for our players. Sometimes you can see a team and they play defensive and it looks forced, but also some teams try to attack and it looks forced because they overhandball, they try and play on too much and it just turns over and you're not suited to it. We just looked like we had the perfect balance on the weekend, so hopefully that's finally the way that Ross really wants us to play.
You've also got one of the most defensively minded coaches in the game who has proven his ability to just create this absolute, impenetrable defensive sides over his career. So I don't know. I think Ross Lyon, a foundation of good defense. You build from the defense out, and that's what you do. Like, that's how I envision Ross. So, I would still imagine he's sitting there in those meetings with his assistant coaches going, let's sort this part out first, and then we'll get the other side going.
Yeah, at training, he's when a certain player gets it and they're doing match sim and the play is slow, he blows the whistle and goes off at them because he wants the ball moving quick. So it's like 07, 06, Grant Thomas left, 07, he came in and we were one of the most attacking teams the last 4 years at that point. We missed finals because he brought in this defensive mind, and then 08, 9, 10, we were top 4 for attack every year after that. So people forget that. People forget that we were us and Geelong were miles ahead in attack in those grand final years, and we were also top 3 for defense. They just focus on the defense because we'd keep teams to 30, but we'd kick 120. Yeah,
You
but
do have to start
people
there.
don't forget that.
You
Hey?
do have to start with your defense.
You do. Every team has to. Yeah.
Start with that pillar of defense before they sort of unleash it.
Brisbane in the first quarter on the weekend, every 2 inside 50s were kicking goals. It was ridiculous. Joe Danaher from the boundary, and I was like, nah, it's if he's doing that, it's their night.
Oh mate, we had Tristan Sherry kicking goals from fucking row G.
What were they? They were like 18. They were 18-2 at one point.
They were 18-2.
It was ridiculous. And one was a rushed point, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. It never happens. It never happens.
Crazy.
Damien Barrett slotting them from 50.
Unbelievable. At one point in the North Collingwood game, I think like North were kicking goals early. I'm like, yeah. And then it was like 6 goals up. I'm like, this will stop eventually, right? And then it just didn't stop.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I thought. I thought after quarter time, I thought, okay, they're not going to be able to keep this up. And then the second quarter, they kick. I think they put another 6 or 7 goals in that second quarter. I'm like, well, and that's when Sherry kicked one from fucking, 8-bit. He was getting a burger and kicking it from the boundary. It was absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And then Toby Pink, I don't know how, Toby Pink kicked one that looked like it was going out on the full, no wind at Marvel, and it curled in. I'm like, well, this is how today's going to be. This is how today's going to be.
All right.
Okay.
Well, let's have a look at the upcoming round. Oh, firstly, hey, Julia, appreciate your support in the comments.
On your Jules.
Jules. Been wanting that shirt out.
Yeah, Julia, yes. There we go. We met. Yeah, the 1966 Saints screening. That was good last year. Went to the Espy and bumped into her and her family, and that was pre-finals, and we watched the 66 granny with a crowd, and we're cheering as if it was a live game. it was good fun.
Love that.
That's actually pretty cool. That's a cool
idea.
Yeah,
yeah, just yelling at the umps. So the commentary was unrivaled, the commentary back then.
Oh, he kicks it forward. Goes long.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. Can they just bring that back for retro round? They need to do something like that next year. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are
those of you watching? Send in a question. Maybe we can answer some questions. But in the meantime, Rob, what we like to do is look at the upcoming fixture or the round. It's a bit tough because there's a few buys, but can you pick out an upset?
An upset. All right, hold on. Let me just get the fixture up. I think I'm going to ask you about Essendon's fixture, and I was going to say how boring it's going to be. I don't know. I feel like the ultimate nail in the coffin would be for the Kangaroos to roll the Demons on Saturday night.
I was thinking that too.
That was going to be my lock of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I guess it is an upset because they look unbelievable at the moment, but I don't know. So I felt the Swans are due for a loss. You can't keep winning. Eventually, you got to lose some weeks, and I reckon it's the game of the round. I know Carlton Geelong's gonna be a big game, but I do think Giants Sydney is the game of the round for mine. And wouldn't be surprised if the Giants knocked them off.
I think it would. Would a lot of people actually think West Coast are a chance against the Bombers if Rob wasn't on this show?
Maybe,
because I reckon that would have come up in conversation. They nearly pipped you last time, didn't they? Earlier in the season at Optus.
It was
6 points or 7 points, wasn't it?
I don't remember. Let's have a look.
I think it was.
I mean, they ran us really close last year, but I mean, we were pretty poor then. Yeah, it was 6 points over there though. But look, no Harley Reid, no Tim Kelly. I actually think we're going to smash them this week. So I actually think this will be Essendon's biggest win of the year, just because it's in Melbourne and they've got a few big outs. We've got 4 first-team players back in this week, which is nice. So I'm pretty back. Redmond's back, Draper's back, Dersma's back, Hobbs is back, and Setterfield should play as well.
Yeah, that's pretty good. North are probably my pick, to be honest. I reckon they'll be pissed that they dropped the Collingwood game.
I'm going to be at it. I'm going to be at the G watching it.
Are you going to the?
Yeah, I'm going.
Sick. I might actually go as well. Actually, no, I'm at I'm going to Jerry Seinfeld that night, so I'm going to miss it.
Is he in Melbourne?
Fun. Yeah, he's doing Australian tour. He's got 2 shows on Saturday at Rod Laver.
There you go.
Yeah, should be good. Buy a round, have a laugh, Gold Coast Freo? Nah.
I'm fancying the Suns for some reason.
You reckon the Suns over Freo?
Yeah, I love the Suns. They're a bit suspect away from home, but I believe in the Suns, and we've already said North.
Yeah, I think Brisbane will flog Port at Adelaide Oval. They always do. Their record at Adelaide Oval against Port is very good. They always smash them there. And yeah, I think they're building very nicely, Brisbane. They're going to be scary.
And we say it every week. Port just.
I said it the first show. I've said it every week on this show. I said they are pretenders. They're fake, flat track bullies. They're not going to make the 8. They're not going to make the 8. Them and Melbourne, finito.
Do you think Melbourne is Petrarca like this? Oh, no, Gawn's the heart and soul of them. But do you think that dents the collective confidence for them?
Yes.
Yeah. Especially because Clayton Oliver's not Clayton Oliver from previous seasons. If he was playing Brownlow level football, you kind of think, well, Viney can lift. They've got other players that can go in there. But because they're out of form and then they've lost their one gun mid that's in form, you're like, Gawn's going to have to carry this whole thing. And I mean, I just don't think he can do it anymore on his own. I think they're finished without him.
Put a line through them, boys.
Yeah.
They're done.
Yeah.
Out.
They're done.
See you next year. That's like without track. Like Jake said, Clary's had the worst off season ever. He's had no preseason. He's not the same player he once was. Lever's been out for a while as well, as we know. Track's are easily their best player at the moment in form, and I mean, I would argue top 5 in the comp. Just he's carried them like that games, and now he's out. Like he kind of remind me of like Cripps a couple of years ago when he was just doing everything for the Blues. That's kind of where I feel like Track's been at, and he's just too big of a loss. Can't cover him, I don't think.
Yeah, I was just checking that Adrian wasn't going off in the comments. Checking the debrief if they're around. He's not commenting, so that's all right.
Maybe pleasure.
I think that's agreement. That silence. So
yeah.
I was gonna say North as well, but I might actually. I think my lock of the week, and I hate to do it. I hate to do it to you, Terry. I think my lock of the week is Carlton. No, it's not. I think it's Carlton.
Oh, he's put the Moz on him.
No. I did it the other week against Port Adelaide.
You did. You did.
I think I haven't rated Geelong this season. I know they started off 7-0, but they had a relatively easy draw, whatever you want to however you want to call it. But if Carlton are the real deal, they'll not smash them, but they'll beat them. MCG Friday, big rest.
5 goals. 20 points. 5+ goals, I reckon.
Let me set the scene for you, boys. All right.
5+ goals.
The scene is Sard, McGovern, Fogarty in from those who didn't play last time. Cats get Tom Stewart back, who's a big in. I just think this is a game before the season, and I did my predictions for the year. We'll split Geelong. We'll win one, we'll lose one. I think that was fair and reasonable. So based on that logic,
you
should win. Yeah.
Should.
Yeah.
It's going to be unbearable if we win this week because I think, that'll be the start of hopefully the run into the second half of the year. And all your Carlton supporter mates, just look out.
I'm so glad I don't have anyone outside of you, Terry. Honestly,
am I the only Carlton supporter friend you have?
Yeah, really. I'm trying to think now. If I'm missing someone, they're going to hate me. But I don't really know anyone that follows Carlton. Not really.
Well, you just stay away
from the show, from you in general.
No, from Carlton supporters.
I mean, I kind of naturally just deviate in the opposite direction anyway, so it doesn't bother me. Until Marvel in round 24, I'll probably avoid them.
Okay. Oh, yep. Rob, I forgot to say this when we did our preview a few weeks ago. A very dear friend of mine from like childhood. I was a groomsman in his wedding. He's a massive fan of you and the show.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if he was still listening. So I was like, I haven't spoken to him about the show in a while, but he messaged me after we had done our thing, I think you'd uploaded it to the audio, and he sent it to me, and he like sent me this voice message like, I can't believe I have to hear your voice for an hour. But he's a big fan. He has been for a long time.
Oh, what's his name? Shout out to
His
him.
name's Andrew. He's just had his
Shout out
first
to
child
Andrew.
as well. So there you go.
Oh, there you go. We can hang out at daycare together, Andrew. It'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that us, boys?
Yeah,
think
could
so.
well be.
Oh, actually, before we go,
Yeah.
Elliot or Hill, who took the better mark?
Andrew
Bill.
Walker.
I'm actually seeing him tomorrow, Terry. You know, I told him I was going to see him the other week. He cancelled on me. I'm seeing Andrew Walker tomorrow. So shout out to you, Walks. Looking forward to it.
Shout out to Walks.
Elliot took a better mark, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it was occasion because of the occasion, or just the mark in general?
I think it was a better mark.
I think the occasion plays a little bit into my mind.
I think so as well.
Do you
Yeah.
reckon?
Yeah.
I just thought he just the way, the lift of it, I just thought it was better. I don't know.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah,
the
man.
lift was-
It's hard to, it was a
it's
proper,
It's hard.
Therese
Yeah,
got it there. It was a proper hanger.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it was, and you know, it's got the photo. I mean, yeah, the occasion, but the photo, the way he took it, I thought it was just better. But yeah, Hills was very good too.
Hills was insane. For Hill
yeah.
to land on his feet from that high up, and then just walk off like nothing happened, crazy. But I think
Do you think
Elliot's
landing on your feet after a massive hanger just kind of doesn't finish the job? You got to roll and add that drama to it.
As you should know, boys, the greatest mark of all time resulted in Gary Moorcroft fracturing his hip, and he never played well ever again.
Yeah, so that's pretty
what
much
you have
the
to
standard.
sacrifice. To be the
Yeah.
GOAT.
It's
It's a career. It's got to be a career ender. Like honestly,
I didn't know that.
It was. It literally was. So.
I didn't know that, or maybe I forgot that. I didn't know that
Yeah,
happened.
so it was like I remember I interviewed him years ago, and so it was like a hairline fracture, and because the medical equipment standards of the league and whatever weren't up to scratch, then they just didn't notice, and he played on for ages with it, and got worse. Eventually, they realized, did treatment, but like so much damage had been done, and then it was never the same. I think when he played at the D's for maybe 1 or 2 years, and that was the end of it for poor Gaz. I mean, he went and played like local footy, and he was a gun there, but. Yeah, the hairline fracture, give it all up to be the GOAT. So,
Jeez.
Well, I think going off that logic, I think, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong. Elliot, when he took that mark, I don't think he's played since then because of that vascular injury that he's got, and
There
probably
you
not
go.
related, but not the same. So,
so he's won it. He's won it. Then,
So he's
based
won it,
on
yeah.
that.
What is it now?
no,
No.
it's a pie warmer, isn't it?
What?
Pie warmer.
Yeah,
That's a
isn't it?
disgrace.
It's 4 and 20 pies that sponsor it now, and it's a pie warmer, isn't that?
That's a disgrace.
Surely, and then some money. Surely,
Terry,
it'll
can
be
we bring
money as
that
well,
list?
but
and
Can we
10
bring the
grand or
list of
something.
issues back up?
I
Was
was
that
going
on
to say,
there?
yeah.
Was that on the list?
What do they
Issues
get?
facing the
Mark
AFL
of
at the moment at the
year
top.
winner.
Can't win a car.
award.
I'm sure it is.
I'm checking now. What do they actually get?
I think I read that on
Mark of the year
I
prize in
remember-
terms. First entrant with a valid qualifying entry drawn in the major prize draw will win $5,000.
$5,000? That's a disgrace.
Is that really it? Or is
It's
this
a
different?
disgrace.
No, yeah, because I
No,
remember
$5
the
grand.
Giants saying that Himmelberg won a pie warmer. The Giants themselves said it.
That's a disgrace.
Well, it says
Laura
here the
Kane,
first
fix it.
entrant will
Yeah,
value at
that's the biggest issue
5,000.
right now. Fix that.
We'll fix that
Yeah, look.
tomorrow.
Looks like the Giants tweeted, looks like Jamie's won himself a pie warmer and a year's supply of pies going off Himmelberg's mark.
There you go.
I'm gonna check
Someone said
that.
5,000 a pie warmer and a year's worth of meat pies. There you go. What you said.
So yeah,
That's
like
insane.
pie warmer
That's
and
not-
so and 10
That's
grand
great.
in cash.
Disgrace.
Laura, fix it tomorrow.
Yeah. There's a lot to fix.
Yeah. Rob, mate, you've been bloody fantastic. A breath of fresh air. Thank you for
Thanks for
coming
having
on.
me. Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
Rob.
Yeah.
Thanks,
if,
mate.
if in 6 weeks' time Essendon's season's blown up, I might not be as cheery to come on something like this. But, yeah, while we're playing good footy, happy to be involved. So
All right. We'll definitely remember that. Hopefully, we do see you again. Serious, like jokes aside, got to have the big Melbourne clubs in finals. Like, got to.
Yeah.
While
And like
we're
we were
in
saying off air,
this-
first time Collingwood, Carlton, and Essendon have been in the top four since at this point of the season since 1984.
And
So-
we know who won. We know who won the flag that year, don't we, Rob?
984. We certainly do.
Yeah,
Certainly
so it's
do.
a good omen there.
Lock it in, boys. Lock it in. Don's Dynasty back to back. Here we go.
Hello.
The
Hello.
double D, the Don's Dynasty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luke, Jake, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck. Good luck.
Pleasure.
Always
Fun on
week.
Tuesday.
Oh, you guys have a bye, so you don't really need good luck.
Yeah, we'll be right.
And yeah, other than that, good night, everyone. Go Blues.
Thanks for tuning in. Up the
Hey
mags.
guys, go
Up the
Saints.
plains.